We're a mom and son travel duo,
inspiring authors,
sharing world adventures with you, and inspiring dreams, bringing inspiration for creation to you,
exploring the world and finding greatness.
We're here to energize your dreams and adventures through travel. Hi everyone! Welcome back. This is Chapter 6 of the Global Footprint Stories podcast. And I'm your host, Deborah Hyla.
And I'm Jonah Siyo.
And this is Jonah Siyo, and we're excited to be here. Thank you for joining us. We're here today to discuss, what topic are we discussing today?
We're discussing about what travel tips should we use when we are traveling at the airport.
So, we're going to discuss, before we start our trip, international trip, what do we do? What are some of the things that we usually do before we do an international trip? 1. 2, what we're going to discuss is, once we are in the country, when we're flying there, what are some of the things that happen? How do we deal with flight delays and long flights? We get a lot of questions about, hey, I'm going on an international trip for the first time. Can you give me a tip on how I can handle it with my baby or with my toddler or with my my child who's like 7 years old? So usually we give them advice on how they should handle it. And, usually it's also, so that's what we'll be discussing today.
That's what we'll discuss today.
Right. So first, when we are planning an international trip, how are you involved in the process? What do we do when we're going to go ahead and plan a trip?
We always make sure we pack the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm helping you pack, as I get older.
Yes. Before, when you were younger, you were not really helping me. But now we're having packing parties, basically. Shopping parties as well, because we got to go shopping to get things, right? Mm-hmm. And now, what's our next trip that we're going to?
Asmara.
Yeah, we're going to Eritrea, but we're also going to go to Turkey before Eritrea. So we are doing a lot of research on Turkey because Eritrea, we've been there, we have family. Yeah. But Turkey, we've never been to Istanbul before. So we're going to go to Istanbul for 4 days. So we're researching to figure out what should we do? Visa. Mm-hmm. Do we need any vaccinations? Mm-hmm. Do we need to get any travel insurance? So maybe. Researching these things ahead of time, once you figure out where you're going, is helpful. And also involving your little one in the process is also helpful. So once you involve your little one, they're able to kind of give you their perspective as well. So how do you help me when we're planning a trip? How do you help me prepare for it? You do help me pack, and then you help me with the research as well.
Yes, I help you research. Like I said, don't forget to check the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to do so-and-so, check everything with the research.
Yep.
And what is there areas to play games over there?
Yeah, exactly, like playgrounds and stuff, right?
Is there playgrounds or parks that you can go?
Yeah, so you're right, exactly. So Jonah, now that he's getting older, he's getting more involved in the planning process, which is amazing. But to have him involved, he also has a say on what country we're going to. Once we get to the country, what are the things he wants to do? And sometimes when I say we should go to museums, and he's like, oh, we already went to 2, that's enough, we don't need to go to another museum, let's do a playground instead, right?
Yeah.
And so, or somewhere else that's more fun and exciting. So we try to mix it up to make sure that we have fun activities while we are traveling. But and one of the exciting parts also traveling internationally is you don't know what to expect once you get there. So we try to keep kind of our itinerary not packed, so when we get there we can just have fun and kind of go with the flow and see how we're feeling that day and what we want to do. Plan majority of it, but not every detail, right?
Not every single thing.
Yeah, so we know where we're gonna stay. We research restaurants.
Yeah,
right?
Even if we research things, they might not say other things. We could just find them in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in Colombia, we asked locals and found really cool restaurants, right?
They were yummy.
Yeah, really good restaurants. So then we end up going to those restaurants. When we were in Cuba, what did we do? We actually asked the locals that we were staying with. They provided the food, so we ended up eating at their home cooked meals a lot more than we thought we would at restaurants. So it just depends on how it's going to all play out, basically, once you get to the destination.
Those are really good tips right there. But what would be another tip?
Another tip when you're including in the planning international trip, though, another way that they can include their kids, another way that I include you is also in figuring out where we are in the world. Right? So like when we were in South Africa and then we were going to Dubai and then we were going back to Eritrea and then we were going back to Dubai. You were like, wow, mommy, we're going outside from Africa, outside Africa, and then they're going to come back to Africa. So one thing that's really cool is they get to understand the geography of how the world works and where we are in the world and the distance basically between the different parts. I think including children that in that way when you're traveling is really exciting for them and exciting and also educational. So learning the map basically of the world and which cities you're going to visit while you're in that country, and then the kids helping you to figure out which cities they prefer as well, because they are doing the research with you and they're looking at what they want to do from their perspective. So that's another cool part, right? Yeah. And also I would say that learning about the parts of the country is one, but also helping with portions of the itinerary is another one. So I usually have Jonah, now that he's getting older, I usually have him kind of take care of okay, you're our timekeeper, you got to keep us on track, right?
Yeah, I would say, okay, it's time to go to this place now. We spent a lot of time here, now it's time to go there.
Yeah, so having him be in charge of that activity usually gets him more involved and more excited as well, which is another cool part to traveling with your kids and having fun with them while they are being involved in the whole process. I think that keeps it more exciting for you, right? Yeah. So another part that we wanted to talk today about is flight delays, and then long flights, and then cancellations.
We had a couple long flights.
We had a few long flights, right? So I think I want to start with our first one that was long was to...
wasn't it Thailand?
It was Thailand, but a cancellation actually that happened was when we were going from... actually DC to Cuba. Cuba is right here from Miami, right?
Yeah, it's close.
So we were flying from DC to Miami to Cuba with our friends. And then when we got from DC to Miami and we're getting ready to board our flight to Cuba, they said, oh, sorry, you're traveling with your child and you have to have both parents present to travel with a child. And I didn't know that because I've traveled with him to 3 or 4 different countries previously, to Dubai, to Eritrea, and to Dominican Republic, and we never had any issues. To Canada as well. You went with Daddy, so we never had any issues before. So I thought going to Cuba was going to be as easy. So I didn't really plan on having Jonah have a document that shows that Daddy's not here, but he's with Mommy, so we can go now. I didn't think I had to do that. Anyway, basically they would not let us board that flight without a letter that says that, Daddy had to write a letter and say, hey, my son is going to go to Cuba with his mother, and then once they get there, and then they'll be back at this date. They're going to go this date, and they're going to come back this date, and I'm authorizing this travel.
So that's what Daddy had to do?
Yes, Daddy had to do that. So I was like, I was calling him like, okay, like this is, so I called him, and by the time we figured it out, it was too late. The flight from Miami to Cuba already left. We didn't have anywhere to stay, so I basically I don't remember the airlines, but the airlines ended up paying for our hotel, so we ended up staying at a hotel in Miami for that night.
I don't remember all of this. I was only 3. So.
You were only 3.
It's a story to me too.
It's a story. Yeah, it is a story. And then we ended up spending the night in Miami, and then our friends ended up leaving because they were already on the flight and they were going to stay with us, but we said, no, you guys go, we'll meet you in Cuba. So we got our document. The next morning we went to our flight basically on unplanned. We didn't even have our luggage already left, and I didn't even have anything in my carry-on. So like we didn't have toothbrush or anything like that. So what I learned from that trip is, one, know what documents you need when you travel with kids. Do you need visas? Do you need vaccinations? Do you need to are you traveling one parent? Then do you need a letter from the other parent? Also, always have the essentials in your travel carry-on, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, like if they send your bag like to baggage claim, and then like your flight gets canceled, or there's a delay, but like it's overnight, and then you have to spend the night, but you don't have your toothbrush or your clothes or your pajamas.
Exactly. So you don't have anything on you, and you will get stuck. So always have everything on your carry-on, right? You can buy all of our Jonah's Global Footprints book series directly on our website at tinyglobalfootprints.com. That's also where you can find Jonah's own best-selling kids' books. His new book, What Does Daddy Do All Day?, just hit the bookshelves. The next chapter of Jonah's Global Footprints series will explore Eastern Africa. Join us on life's adventure at tinyglobalfootprints.com. So yeah, we didn't have that. We ended up making it, obviously. We went to Cuba the next day.
Yeah.
We couldn't find our friends when we got to Cuba, unfortunately.
But it's a good thing we made it to Cuba.
We made it to Cuba, and we couldn't find them because of our flight. Because when we went to the Airbnb that we booked, they were not there.
Oh.
Or that address wasn't accurate.
It wasn't that
So
correct.
what I had, where the taxi driver dropped us off, was in the right place. So basically, I was there at a country they don't speak English. Well, people that were next to us, most of them couldn't speak English. So I had to find people that spoke English, one. Two, people that could tell us where this address was. And when we finally found it, they were like, no, we don't have Airbnb. Nobody's staying here. It was the scariest moment because I had a 3-year-old with me. But we made it because we finally went, and I said...
it was actually unexpected.
But so what I did was I went and got a hotel for us for that night because I was like, we were going to, get online and try to locate our friends, basically. Yeah. And then when we were on our way to go to the hotel on a taxi, I see my friend just walking out a coffee shop. And then I was like, oh my God! Wait! And I just literally was going to jump off the taxi because I was so excited to see her. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I just saw your post that you left. I didn't know where you were. And I was just going to the coffee shop to check my email to get a hold of you. So we got her. We got our Airbnb. We had an amazing trip.
When I was like 3, I was like, whoa. You must be really happy to see them.
Yeah, exactly.
We were like almost lost.
We were lost, basically. So that was one of our mishaps and our little, delays. And we were able to kind of come back from that and have a great time in Cuba, an amazing time. But it was a learning lesson because that was kind of like the first time that I had to deal with that. Another long trip we had that we were stuck in an airport for a while was going to
Thailand.
Going to Thailand. Now you tell them about Thailand.
Yeah, because I remember that.
You remember that. You always talk about it, too.
I always do.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the exact many hours.
Okay.
But what I do remember is that from D.C., we took a flight to Abu Dhabi for our layover. And
we were like 6 or 7
hours there
in Abu Dhabi airport.
And then from Abu Dhabi, we had to fly another
like
plane.
14 or 15 hours.
Yeah, it was really long to get to Bangkok, Thailand. So that was a really long experience. I remember exactly what I did.
What did you do?
I slept for 2 hours or something.
You slept for more than that. Way longer than that.
3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
And then I watched 3 movies.
Uh-huh.
And And then
You were on your iPad.
yes, I took my iPad and I brought my iPad.
So having electronics is key.
Yeah, it's
on
also
long
good.
flights.
Yeah, like when you're going abroad, like if you're going from here to a different country in like Europe, because you don't want to sit in the plane, just sleep, and then when you get up, you're still in the plane. There's nothing to do. So bring an electronic
And books.
book so you can read. I also brought some books so I can
You
read.
can read, yep. But you also did coloring.
I colored because they had the like color
Yes.
things
Yeah.
in the plane.
In the plane, yeah. And we also took coloring too.
Yeah, I took some like crayons so I can end up coloring a book.
Exactly. So you were reading and coloring, doing electronics, sleeping, eating.
Eating, yeah, because we got food,
We
like
got food.
snacks,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
like apple juice and pretzels.
No, we also got food because it's an international flight, so we also got real food.
Food, like
Some like rice or something. So you were like eating
that
it.
part I do not remember.
Yes, you did. It was rice or something, so you really enjoyed
Wow.
it. It was yummy. You really, really liked that one. Uh-huh. And then what else?
So like I did all of those things.
Yeah.
And I also colored. I colored. slept.
You said that. So you slept, and then you also did. We also like played games.
Yeah, like I Spy. Like
yeah.
in the plane.
In the plane, yeah, we played like I Spy, and we played like
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, but now we have more games because now you're older. We can play what? What's our favorite game to play?
Categories.
Categories. We play categories like
All the time.
all the time. How do we play it?
So we choose a category, and then we try and say a category, so if we're saying colors, so I say blue, what do you say?
Red,
I say yellow.
orange,
So
and then you keep going.
Yeah, and then you go
And then
on
over.
and on and on, over and over.
Exactly. So that's our favorite game, now that we travel and he's more older and we talk about countries, like we do that with countries.
We do that with countries, cars, colors, everything.
Yeah, exactly. So playing games is also fun with your kids. So when you are basically in these long flights to going to an international trip, it's always important to have snacks. The
Yes.
snacks that kids like. Also important to have reading.
Yeah, books.
Reading books. Electronics. Also coloring books.
Coloring book.
And stuff that they can write on. It's just
like-
fun to write.
Just
You
fun
used
to write, like
yeah.
on just a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah, and you used to write a lot of different things on there. And then they can watch movies as well. So
Yeah.
it's fun that way too. But also one thing on the electronics is, when you're traveling abroad, the apps are not going to work. So it's always important to have those apps that
Don't need
what? That don't need what?
the internet.
Exactly. Don't you always struggle with that? Because
Yeah.
you're like, I don't know how to...
Come on, work.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
But I have one favorite game that I played that does not need internet.
What is it called?
It's called Dream League Soccer. It's a soccer game.
Oh, it's a soccer game?
Yeah.
So, okay, do you have another one?
No.
That's the only one?
Well, I do have like one other one.
Yeah, I think you have a lot that Daddy put on yours when we were going to Eritrea
Yeah.
a few years ago, or 2 years ago when we went.
Yeah, like 2019.
Yeah, so maybe you can add more games on there that
Don't need internet.
Exactly. So, but it's always fun to have that because it keeps them occupied, it keeps them busy, right?
Yeah.
And
It keeps me busy so that I don't just... Even if I have a coloring book, like if I'm coloring and I end it, even when the book is finished,
yeah,
like there's nothing else to do. So you can bring electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I even bring like a pillow, like the ones around your neck.
Yeah.
I could sleep.
Exactly. Relax, right?
Relax.
Yeah, so it's always good to also have that time to talk and tell stories to each other.
Yeah, we tell stories.
We do tell stories and we make up stories as well. So when you are traveling abroad, just bring everything you can possibly bring, especially if it's a long flight, because you don't know what's going to happen, to keep the kids entertained. If it's a baby, I would always bring a pacifier because that really keeps the baby from their ears plugging up and everything. It helps them. And then when they're older, it helps to have gum so your ears don't plug up.
So like you just chew when your mouth goes
when you're
the ear pop.
Yeah, when you're when the flight is taking off and coming down, basically when you're landing.
And another time is like when we go like up the flight, like it goes fast up. And it's like the rumbling noise always scares me for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, like
yeah, but then you're like, but you
and on the way down.
On the way
it's
down.
Like choo.
Yeah, exactly. So long flights are fun.
Yeah, they are.
But also exhausting.
Exhausting.
When we got to Thailand, Jonah was basically just out of it, completely out of it.
Yeah,
he was exhausted.
Like we just ate breakfast, and now we're ready to eat dinner now, and then we eat breakfast again.
Yeah, because there's a
12-hour difference.
Yeah, and we didn't know the time difference was really killing us.
What time is it? Is it 7 o'clock?
Is it 7 a.m. or 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thailand was exciting because it's just all the way on the other side of the world, and it was a long flight, but we made it, so that was exciting, and we also made that long trip fun because as soon as also what we did was, even though we were exhausted from our trip, when we got to Bangkok, we didn't want to go to sleep because it was daytime, their time. So I made sure Jonah slept and I slept in the flight. So when we got to Bangkok, we were just out and about. Basically, we went.
Yeah, like we can go to places.
We went to the temple.
Temple.
You had to visit temples.
I remember the temple.
You do? It was so hot, very hot,
it was like,
and we were so tired.
Are you sure there's no fan?
Yeah, tired and hot and crowded. This is pre-COVID,
so
and it was
crowded.
very crowded. And Jonah was extremely hungry, and we were just out of it. But then we found a restaurant we went around the temple,
and we found a hotel.
Well, we already had a hotel reserved before we got there. So we went to our hotel, checked in, and then we left to see the temples.
Like the temples.
Visited the temple. We went and ate.
We went to the beach.
We went to the beach. I had a list of what we needed to do at Bangkok, what we were doing in Chiang Mai, what we were doing in Koh Tao and Koh Samui. So we were meeting friends there, but still I had a list of things that I wanted us to do. So in Bangkok, I was just checking off lists basically. We didn't get to everything, but most of it we did. And like I said, sometimes it's always good to have an itinerary, but it's also, you have to leave that a little bit of time for sleep and things that might happen out of unplanned. So we don't try to plan every minute of the day, but we try to have a few activities during the day to keep us going once we get to our destination. So that's our tip for the day, right? And thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned a thing or two about long flights, some cancellations, some mishaps that happen when you're traveling unplanned, and also how to involve your children when you're traveling. For more tips, go ahead and follow us on our Instagram page, Tiny Global Footprints, and then our website, tinyglobalfootprints.com. And our books are also available in tinyglobalfootprints.com. Our first book, what is our first book?
The Search for Elephants in Thailand.
Second book?
Finding My Amigo in Cuba.
And third book, Jonah's book.
Also my book, Basketball or Soccer.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Bye. We'll see you next time.
See you on Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.